History remembers a fragmented land of German states, but the force that shaped their unification came from a country that no longer exists on today's map. Without it, modern Germany would not exist. That country was Prussia. For centuries, Prussia stood at the center of Europe's most powerful events. Its story begins long before kings and empires, with ancient Baltic tribes who settled lands that today belong to northern Poland, the Kaliningrad region of Russia, and parts of Lithuania. These tribes were first mentioned by the Roman historian Tacitus, who called them the Esti. The name Prussians appeared later, around the 12th century. These people lived without a centralized state. They were farmers, hunters, and traders, building wooden settlements protected by earthworks and ditches. Their economy depended on grain, livestock, and especially amber, a valuable resource traded across Europe. They were independent, but vulnerable. Without a unified army or strong political structure, they relied on alliances and simple weapons like spears, axes, and bows. Their language belonged to the Baltic family, closely related to modern Lithuanian and Latvian, but it would eventually disappear through assimilation. Before Christianity reached them, the Prussians followed pagan beliefs. They worshipped gods like Perkunas, the god of thunder, and believed in sacred forests and natural spirits. Their priests led rituals in holy groves, the most famous being Ramo. For centuries, they resisted outside control. But pressure from neighboring Slavs, Germans, and Lithuanians never stopped. Raids and counter-raids became part of life. By the 10th century, their lands were invaded by rising powers like Poland under Mieszko I and Eastern rulers expanding influence. Despite resistance, the Prussians never formed a unified state, and that weakness would define their fate. In 1226, a turning point arrived. A Polish Duke, Conrad of Masovia, invited the Teutonic Order to deal with the Prussians. It was a decision that would reshape the entire region. The Teutonic Knights were a powerful military religious order formed during the Crusades. Originally healers of the sick, they became disciplined warriors. Conrad believed they would serve him. He was wrong. With support from Frederick II, the order gained sovereignty over conquered lands. Instead of serving Poland, they built their own state. What followed was a brutal conquest. The Teutonic Knights built massive castles, launched organized campaigns, and slowly crushed Prussian resistance. The Prussians fought fiercely, even rising in rebellion under leaders like Hercus Monti, but they were eventually defeated. Their lands were taken, their people converted to Christianity, and over time, they were absorbed into German and Polish culture. By the 14th century, the original Prussians had nearly vanished. But their name lived on. The Teutonic Order transformed Prussia into a powerful state. It expanded aggressively, threatening Poland and Lithuania. This led to one of the greatest clashes in medieval Europe. In 1410, the Battle of Grunwald changed everything. The armies of Poland and Lithuania, led by the Ladislaw II Jagiello and Vytautas, faced the Teutonic Knights in a massive battle. Tens of thousands of soldiers fought in a brutal, decisive conflict. The result was devastating for the Knights. Their leader was killed, their army shattered. It marked the beginning of their decline. Over the next decades, the order weakened. Internal conflicts and economic struggles reduced its power. Finally, in 1466, after another major war, Prussia was divided. Western Prussia became part of Poland, while the eastern part remained under the order, but only as a vassal. Then came another transformation. In 1525, the last Grand Master, Albert of Prussia, converted to Protestantism. He dissolved the order's rule and created the Duchy of Prussia, becoming its furs. This marked the birth of a new political force. Through dynastic marriages and alliances, Prussia became connected with Brandenburg, a German state within the Holy Roman Empire. Over time, the two merged into a single power under the Hohenzollern dynasty. In 1640, leadership passed to Frederick William, known as the Great Elector. He transformed Prussia into a disciplined and centralized state. He built a strong army, improved administration, and laid the foundation of future greatness. By skillful diplomacy and war, he secured independence from Polish control. Prussia was no longer a vassal. It was becoming a rising power. In 1701, his successor crowned himself king. The Kingdom of Prussia was born. At first it struggled. But under Frederick William I, the state was reformed. He built a powerful military and enforced strict discipline. Prussia became known for efficiency and strength. Then came the man who would define its destiny, Frederick II. Rising to power in 1740, Frederick transformed Prussia into one of Europe's strongest military states. Bold, intelligent, and ambitious, he saw opportunity where others saw risk. When Austria faced instability, Frederick struck. He invaded Silesia, a rich and strategic region, starting the War of Austrian Succession. Against powerful enemies, he held his ground and secured victory. This success elevated Prussia to a new level. It was no longer just another German state. It was a major European power. But with power came enemies. Austria, France, Russia, and others formed alliances against Prussia. The tension exploded into one of the largest conflicts of the 18th century, the 7 Years' War. Prussia stood surrounded, outnumbered, and under threat from all sides. Yet through discipline, strategy, and sheer determination, it survived. By the end of this struggle, Prussia had proven itself. It was now one of the most powerful and respected states in Europe, a force that would later play a decisive role in